Hello everyone and welcome to spectacular Norway. I'm here for 5 days this week for a little midweek trip to visit some waterfalls, do some hiking. Today I'm at the famous Husedalen Valley Walk, which is I think arguably like the most famous day walk to waterfalls in Norway. It's about a 12-kilometre return walk. You get to 4 huge falls. Basically just starting it off now. The views here are unbelievably spectacular. I've been here about a day so far and already seen loads of waterfalls just by the road. But this is like the first proper hike, so I'm really looking forward to it, to be honest. I'll give you a look around. So initially we just follow this old road from the car park. There's big mountains all around, and we'll soon get to the first waterfall, which is Waterfalls, and then up the hill from there pretty much. So it's been 1.5 kilometres in about 20 minutes. Made it to Waterfalls. Now I'm going to have to apologise in advance because my Norwegian is terrible, so I'm going to butcher all of these names. It's Waterfalls and Waterfalls. I'll just put the name up on the screen, that way you can read it, and if you speak Norwegian, pronounce it better than I will. But it's an impressive falls. It's actually the smallest of the waterfalls on the track, but it's still a serious drop. And here's the old power station. So it looks like quite a bit of the river is diverted away from this waterfall through these pipes there. So hopefully that means the falls upstream have the full force of the river behind them. Very impressive. You've got these little thin waterfalls coming down the crevices there, add to the whole scene. So I just left the power station and this sort of little narrow trail that heads into the left of it. Now this should take me up to the top of this waterfall, then up the river towards the next one. The road also keeps going over that a ways and sort of follows parallel to this trail, so you can kind of make a bit of a loop. So I imagine I'll probably end up going back via the road. Did not expect this. Climbing up and up next to this pipe. It's actually quite a much larger waterfall than it looks from below to Waterfalls, because it keeps extending further above what you can see from below. So it feels like we climb about 100 metres just alongside this hydro pipe. But looks like we're nearly at the top now, which is a relief. And after all that, just meets up with this road anyway. So I think the safest bet is not to take the little trail next to the power station. Instead, just go back a little ways and the road actually follows up. Probably a less steep route. Although that was a nice adventure. Right, so we see the very top here where that sort of little dam is set up to divert the water away up to Waterfalls. And we also have 2 options of trails here. So there's going to be a road trail that's going to be up higher, and another trail that's leading closer alongside the river. See up ahead there is Norwegian, the second falls. We'll take the trail along the riverbed, and that's going to give us some epic views, I reckon, of this big waterfall up ahead. Well, it's still a ways in the distance, but this waterfall is absolutely ridiculous. I'm not sure I've seen a fall with more power and size. It looks like 200 metres high on one of the biggest rivers I've ever seen. It is outrageous how big this waterfall is. Husedalen. Yes, I butchered the name again. My apologies. So spectacular. Well, made it to what I would probably say is like the money shot view of the spectacular Husedalen. Unbelievably powerful waterfall, as I mentioned before, and I don't actually know how tall it is, but it looks well over 100 meters. It's just a gargantuan chunk of granite that it tumbles over. Here it is. The amount of mist being kicked off the bottom as well. Something to keep in mind, this trail, that's the actual trail rather than the road. Fucking steep. Whew. Basically just climbing up the granite slabs that kind of extend from the waterfall. So very steep, often quite a vague route given that you're basically just climbing up rock slabs. But there's lots of little red markers on trees and T's that are definitely your friends if you want to avoid getting lost. Well, I've come to this really grand panorama approaching the third waterfall, which is called Norwegian. Again, apologies for the pronunciation. This one looks a bit smaller than the last one, but still a sizable drop where the river is sort of squeezed in this very narrow notch in the cliffs. And down here, got a nice big pool in front. It's just a really nice view. And you can even see just the corner of Waterfalls, which is the fourth and final waterfall on the trail, from here as well. So many grand vistas like this. That's where we're headed. So, trail's flattened out again somewhat as I'm sort of getting towards the top of Norwegian. It's an absolute killer of a hike this really, because there are sections where it's pretty much flat, where between the waterfalls the river is basically dead flat, and then just three or four significant climbs where it just sort of really takes out of the calves. So the good thing about it is if at any point you think, oh, it's a bit much, you can always turn around, and no matter which point you get to, it's been a worthwhile walk. But I have a funny feeling Waterfalls is going to be the best of the four, so it's definitely worth making it up here if you're able to. And we're not too far off it now. On the last stretch now, you can see Waterfalls up ahead. It's like a moonscape out here. Such an incredibly exposed plateau. There's the view down to the valley. And the top of Norwegian. I'm going to go check the view out from there, I reckon. Because I reckon you get a nice perspective back down. Top of Norwegian, bloody spectacular view. And it's incredible how this entire river just gets put in that little crevice there. Well, after 6.5 kilometers of pretty intense hiking, finally made it to Waterfalls, which is the last and the biggest of the Husedalen waterfalls. Spectacular spot, just an enormous like basin here with the two-tiered falls into this big pool at the base. Just epic, to be honest. Now, in terms of photography here, there is behind me, you can kind of see it that way, a little waterfall that comes in to the main river here. And this creek there, it's a bit on the low side, so if it had more water, it'd be better, but I'm hoping I can sort of use that as a foreground for some photos. But yeah, we'll see how that turned out. It's really good, you'll see them now. Well, I've emerged to the terminus of this old road, which is now going to provide me access back to the start of the trail to sort of make a bit of a loop in the end. Obviously, this side of the track's going to be a lot easier, so it's a good way to do on the way back. And I'm going to get some different views of the waterfalls as well. So definitely worth doing as a loop, I think. So yeah, we'll see what we see on the way down. Definitely worth doing this side of the track for the views of the upper section of Husedalen. Can't really see the lower parts, but excellent views of the upper sections and very broad views to the valley. On the trail back now, so I figure I may as well wrap up the video. This is an unbelievably spectacular hike. Probably the best day hike I've ever done. Like 4 huge waterfalls. Husedalen and Waterfalls, clearly the most impressive of the two. Probably toss a coin, to be honest, between those two. I mean, they're both 200 meters high roughly, with this enormous river coming through. It's pretty spectacular. It's 13 kilometers return, so you want to allow, it's taking me about just over 5 hours, including photo stops, but I was walking pretty quick, so 5-6 hours should be enough. But yeah, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. I will see you at the next one.